Have you ever, just stared up at the night sky and felt kind of small?
You mean awestruck by the vastness of it all?
Yeah, exactly. It really hits you that there's so much out there that we don't know. What is it all about? It makes you think about those really big questions, the ones humans have been pondering forever. How did it all begin? Are we alone?
Those are the questions that drove Stephen Hawking, one of the most brilliant minds of our time. And they're at the heart of his final book, Brief Answers to the Big Questions, which, by the way, is what we're diving into today.
This book isn't just a science book, though, is it? It's more like his parting message to humanity, his thoughts on the universe and everything, and considering his battle with ALS.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that he keeps pushing the boundaries of knowledge while facing such incredible physical challenges, it's truly inspiring.
Yeah, diagnosed with ALS in his 20s and given only a few years to live. Yet he went on to make groundbreaking contributions to our understanding of the cosmos for decades.
Right. Just think about that. And in this book, we get to explore his final thoughts on the biggest questions of all, the existence of God, the origin of the universe, the possibility of alien life, time travel.
All the good stuff. So for everyone listening, we're going to try to break down some of the key ideas from Hawking's book, give you the essence of his perspective without getting too bogged down in the complexities. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so let's start with the question that's on everyone's mind. Is there a God? It's the ultimate question, isn't it?
It is a question that has fascinated humans for millennia. And what's interesting about Hawking's approach is that he looks at it from the perspective of a physicist, not a theologian.
Right, so he's not relying on faith or religious doctrine. He's searching for evidence-based scientific explanations.
Exactly. And he's quite upfront about his own journey from a childhood with religious upbringing to his scientific worldview.
He doesn't shy away from sharing his personal views?
No, he doesn't. In fact, he states pretty clearly in the book, and I'm quoting here, "I use the word God in an impersonal sense, like Einstein did, for the laws of nature. We are each free to believe what we want, and it's my view that the simplest explanation is that there is no God. No one created the universe, and no one directs our fate."
So he's basically saying that from a scientific standpoint, invoking a divine creator is an unnecessary complication.
That's a good way to put it. He's acknowledging the limits of science while also emphasizing that natural laws offer a more elegant and parsimonious explanation for the universe as we observe it.
And this is where quantum mechanics comes in, right? The idea that something can come from nothing.
Exactly. Now, this is where things get really interesting. At the quantum level, empty space isn't actually empty. There are these constant fluctuations, these little bursts of energy that pop in and out of existence.
So it's like a bubbling sea of potential, even in the absence of matter.
That's a great way to visualize it. And Hawking suggests that these quantum fluctuations could have been the seed for the universe itself. Imagine the entire universe springing into existence from one of these quantum fluctuations. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. So the laws of physics themselves, operating at the quantum level, could have been the catalyst for the Big Bang.
That's one of the implications. And it elegantly sidesteps the classic question of who created the creator. If the universe arose from these fundamental quantum laws, then there's no need for an external agent.
I see. So Hawking's view is that the universe itself might be self-creating.
That's the essence of it. And he ends this chapter with a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to experience and understand the universe, regardless of its ultimate origin.
He does say, "We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that I am extremely grateful." It's a beautiful sentiment, really. But if not a divine act of creation, then how did the universe come into being? That's chapter 2, right?
Right. How did it all begin? And for Hawking, this isn't a metaphysical mystery, but a scientific puzzle waiting to be solved.
So he walks us through the history of our understanding of the cosmos, right?
He does. From ancient myths and Aristotle's idea of an eternal, unchanging universe to the revolutionary observations of Edwin Hubble in the early 20th century.
Hubble's the one who discovered that galaxies are moving apart, right?
That's right. His observations led to the development of the Big Bang Theory, which proposes that the universe originated from an incredibly hot and dense state and has been expanding ever since.
Okay, so that's the foundation. But then Hawking takes it further with his no-boundary proposal, right?
Yes, this is where Hawking's own genius really shines. The no-boundary proposal, which he developed with James Hartle, reimagines the very nature of time in the early universe.
I've always found this concept a bit mind-boggling. Can you try to break it down for us?
I'll do my best. Imagine the universe in its earliest moments, incredibly tiny and hot. At this point, gravity and quantum mechanics, the two pillars of modern physics, are both dominant forces shaping the universe. And what Hawking and Hartle propose is that in this extreme environment, time as we know it, with its linear flow from past to present to future, might not have existed.
So no before the Big Bang.
Exactly. Time itself emerges as part of the universe. It's like asking what's north of the North Pole. It's a meaningless question because the concept of north breaks down at that point.
Okay, I think I'm starting to grasp it. Time doesn't exist in the conventional sense at the very beginning of the universe.
That's the gist of it. Hawking uses a great analogy to explain this. In the early universe, when the universe was small enough to be governed by both general relativity and quantum theory, there were effectively 4 dimensions of space and none of time. We need to replace the idea of a beginning of time with the idea of a boundary of time, like the edge of a map. It's like the surface of a sphere. You can travel around it endlessly without ever encountering an edge.
Wow, that analogy really helps. So no beginning, no edge, just the continuous existence of space-time. But then he briefly mentions inflation theory and the multiverse, right?
He does. Inflation theory is an extension of the Big Bang model, suggesting that in the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, the universe underwent a period of extremely rapid expansion. This helps explain some of the observed features of the universe, like its uniformity and large-scale structure.
And the multiverse, that's the idea that our universe is just one of many, right?
Exactly. It's a very speculative idea, but it's consistent with some theories of physics. The idea is that there might be countless other universes, each with its own unique set of physical laws and properties. It's a fascinating concept, and we could definitely spend an entire deep dive exploring it someday. But let's move on to another big question that always captures the imagination. Is there other intelligent life in the universe? That's chapter 3.
This is the one that really gets people thinking, right? Yeah. Are we alone in this vast cosmos, or are there other intelligent beings out there?
It's a question that has fueled countless science fiction stories and philosophical debates. And Hawking points out that based on the sheer size of the universe and the incredible number of stars and planets, it seems statistically improbable that we're the only intelligent life form.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the night sky. There are billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and there are billions of galaxies out there.
Exactly. So the odds of life arising elsewhere seem pretty good. But then we run into the Fermi paradox. If life is so common, why haven't we encountered any evidence of it yet? Where is everybody?
It's the ultimate cosmic silence. What are some of the explanations Hawking offers for this?
He explores several possibilities. It could be that the conditions required for life to emerge are extremely rare, more so than we currently realize. Or maybe the evolution of intelligence is a highly improbable event, a cosmic fluke that occurred only here on Earth.
So we just got really, really lucky.
It's possible. But he also suggests another, more sobering possibility. That technologically advanced civilizations might tend to self-destruct before they reach a stage where they can communicate across interstellar distances.
Uh-oh. So maybe they blew themselves up before they could reach out to us.
That's one of the possibilities he considers, and it's a cautionary tale for us as well. Hawking was quite cautious about actively broadcasting our presence into the cosmos.
He was worried about attracting unwanted attention.
That's right. He famously said, meeting an advanced civilization could be like Native Americans encountering Columbus. That didn't turn out so well. His concern was that a technologically superior alien civilization might not have our best interests in mind.
Makes sense. So his stance was basically, listen, but don't shout.
Exactly. He argued that we should be wary of actively trying to contact extraterrestrial civilizations until we've developed further as a species. But we should definitely keep our ears open, listening for any signals that might be out there. And he concludes this chapter with a really profound statement.
He says, we are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special. It's a beautiful reminder that despite our smallness in the grand scheme of things, our capacity for understanding the cosmos is truly remarkable.
It really is. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and tackle a question that's a little closer to home. Can we predict the future? That's what Hawking explores in chapter 4.
This one's always a bit of a brain twister. I mean, can we actually see what lies ahead? Or is the future fundamentally unknowable?
It's a question that has captivated philosophers and scientists for centuries. And Hawking dives into the fascinating interplay between determinism, chaos theory, and the inherent uncertainties introduced by quantum mechanics.
Okay, so let's unpack that. What does he say about determinism?
Well, the classical view of determinism, going back to thinkers like Laplace, is that if you knew the precise state of every particle in the universe at a given moment, you could, in principle, predict the entire future.
Like a giant cosmic clockwork.
Exactly. Everything unfolding according to predictable, predetermined laws. But then along comes chaos theory, which shows us that even in systems governed by deterministic laws, tiny, imperceptible differences in the initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes over time.
So, like the butterfly effect, the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can eventually cause a tornado in Texas.
That's a good example. Hawking uses weather forecasting as an illustration of this principle, he says. Even with the fastest computers, we cannot predict the weather accurately more than a few days ahead. And that's because the atmosphere is a chaotic system. Tiny variations in temperature, pressure, and humidity can quickly amplify into large-scale changes, making long-term predictions incredibly difficult.
So, even with a ton of data and computing power, predicting the future with certainty is impossible in many cases.
Exactly. But then quantum mechanics introduces an even more fundamental level of unpredictability with the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Oh, yeah, the one that says we can't know both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy at the same time.
That's the one. And what this means is that at the most fundamental level, reality itself has an element of randomness built into it. We can't predict the future with absolute certainty because the present state of the universe can't be known with absolute precision.
So, the future is inherently probabilistic, not deterministic.
That's what quantum mechanics suggests. And this leads to the age-old philosophical debate about free will. If our actions are ultimately governed by physical laws, then is our sense of choice just an illusion? Are we just biological machines following a predetermined script?
That's a big question. What does Hawking have to say about that?
He explores this tension, acknowledging that our biological processes are certainly governed by the laws of physics. But he also suggests that the inherent indeterminacy at the quantum level might offer a theoretical possibility for free will. Maybe, just maybe, our choices aren't completely predetermined, but emerge from the probabilistic nature of reality itself.
So free will might be a consequence of quantum fuzziness.
It's an intriguing possibility, but it's definitely still open to debate. Okay, now let's venture into a realm of physics that truly bogles the mind. Black holes. In Chapter 5, Hawking explores the question, what is inside a black hole?
Black holes are such fascinating and mysterious objects. Gravity so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape.
They are truly some of the most extreme objects in the universe. And Hawking takes us on a quick tour of the history of black hole theory, from the early concepts of dark stars to Einstein's theory of general relativity, providing the framework for understanding their incredible gravitational pull.
So how do they form?
They form when massive stars, much larger than our sun, reach the end of their lives and collapse under their own gravity. This collapse creates a singularity, a point of infinite density at the center of the black hole.
And that's where things get really weird, right? Because our current laws of physics break down at a singularity.
That's right. We don't really know what happens at the very center of a black hole. But Hawking's groundbreaking work revolutionized our understanding of these enigmatic objects, especially with his discovery of Hawking radiation.
Yes. The famous black holes ain't so black. Can you explain that one for us?
Sure. What Hawkins showed is that black holes aren't actually completely black. They emit a faint radiation due to quantum effects occurring near their event horizon, the boundary beyond which nothing can escape. This means that over incredibly long timescales, black holes can slowly lose mass and eventually evaporate completely.
So they're not just cosmic vacuum cleaners sucking everything in. They're actually leaking energy back into the universe.
That's right. It was a truly groundbreaking discovery, and it led to the so-called black hole information paradox.
Ah, the paradox. Can you remind me what that is again?
One of the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics is that information cannot be destroyed. But if a black hole completely evaporates, what happens to all the information about everything that fell into it? It seemed to create a conflict between general relativity and quantum mechanics.
A real head-scratcher. So how did Hawking try to resolve this paradox?
His thinking on this evolved over time. Initially, he suggested that information might actually be lost within black holes. But later, he came to believe that the information isn't destroyed but might be encoded on the black hole's surface, the event horizon, in some holographic form. It remains a topic of active research and debate among physicists today.
It's a good reminder that there's still so much we don't know about these incredibly complex objects. Okay, now for a question that's a bit more fun. Is time travel possible? That's chapter 6.
Time travel. Who hasn't fantasized about traveling through time? And Hawking points out that time travel to the future is actually a confirmed phenomenon thanks to Einstein's theory of special relativity.
So we can already travel to the future?
In a sense, yes. Time passes at different rates for observers moving at different speeds or experiencing different gravitational fields. So astronauts on the International Space Station, for example, actually age a tiny bit slower than people on Earth because they're moving at a much higher speed.
Whoa, that's wild. So the faster you go, the slower time passes for you relative to someone standing still.
Exactly. And this isn't science fiction. It's been experimentally verified many times. Hawking even says, this is not science fiction, but science fact. Verified by many experiments using clocks on planes and by observing how long elementary particles live before decaying.
So traveling to the future is theoretically possible, but going back in time, that's the real challenge, right?
That's where things get really tricky, both theoretically and practically. Hawking explores some possibilities, like wormholes and closed time-like curves, but he also acknowledges the inherent paradoxes that arise, like the classic grandfather paradox.
The one where you go back in time and accidentally prevent your grandparents from meeting, so you're never born in the first place?
Exactly. It creates a logical contradiction, and to address these paradoxes, Hawking proposed the concept of a chronology protection agency.
A what? Is that like a time-traveling police force?
Not literally, no. It's more of a playful way of suggesting that the laws of physics might somehow prevent us from creating time travel paradoxes, like the universe has built-in safeguards to prevent us from messing with causality.
So time travel to the past might be physically impossible because it would create logical inconsistencies?
That's the gist of it. And Hawking even offered a humorous experiment to test the possibility of time travel. He held a party for time travelers, but he didn't send out the invitations until after the party had taken place. No one showed up. Of course, this wasn't a serious scientific experiment, but it highlights the lack of any evidence for visitors from the future. Okay, now let's shift from the realm of theoretical physics to some very real and pressing concerns facing humanity. In Chapter 7, Hawking asks, will we survive on Earth?
This is where things take a bit of a darker turn, right? Because we're facing some pretty serious existential threats.
We are. Hawking doesn't sugarcoat the challenges. He lists them quite clearly. Nuclear war, climate change, genetically engineered viruses, asteroid impacts, and the potential dangers of artificial intelligence.
It's a pretty sobering list.
It is, and he emphasizes the scientific basis for our understanding of these threats. He's not just speculating, he's presenting a clear-eyed assessment of the risks we face.
And climate change is one of the biggest ones, right?
It's one of the most urgent threats. He explains the dangerous potential for self-sustaining warming due to feedback loops where, for example, melting ice caps reduce the Earth's reflectivity, leading to even more warming.
A vicious cycle.
Exactly. And he doesn't downplay the very real and present danger of nuclear war either. It's a reminder that we have the capacity to destroy ourselves, even without the help of asteroids or climate change.
So what's his overall conclusion about our chances of survival?
He doesn't mince words. He says, I am convinced that humans need to leave Earth. If we stay, we risk being annihilated.
Wow. That's a pretty stark warning. But it also leads into the next chapter, right? Should we colonize space?
Exactly. If our long-term survival on Earth is in question, then establishing a presence elsewhere in the cosmos becomes a matter of necessity, not just exploration.
So we need to become a multiplanetary species, essentially.
That's Hawking's argument. But he's realistic about the immense challenges involved. Space travel is incredibly difficult and expensive, and establishing self-sustaining colonies on other planets is even harder.
And he discusses different potential destinations, right? Like the moon, Mars, and even exoplanets.
He does. The moon is close, but it has limited resources. Mars is more promising in terms of potential for terraforming, but it's still a very hostile environment. And reaching exoplanets, planets orbiting other stars, would require overcoming the vast distances of interstellar space, which is a monumental technological challenge.
It seems almost impossible with our current technology.
It would require significant breakthroughs in propulsion systems and spacecraft design. But despite these challenges, Hawking maintains a sense of optimism about the future of space exploration and pollination.
He even gives a timeline, right?
Yes. He suggests that we could establish colonies on the Moon and Mars within 100 years. It's an ambitious goal, but he believed it's achievable if we commit the resources and ingenuity to it.
And he also makes a really interesting point about the potential benefits of space colonization, beyond just survival.
Right, he argues that spreading out into space could actually save us from ourselves. It could force us to cooperate on a global scale and to focus on solving common challenges, rather than fighting amongst ourselves over dwindling resources here on Earth.
So it's not just about finding a backup planet, it's about changing our perspective and evolving as a species.
Exactly. Okay, now let's turn to another potential existential threat that is rapidly becoming a reality. Will artificial intelligence outsmart us? This is Chapter 9.
AI is all over the news these days. It's being used in everything from self-driving cars to medical diagnosis to writing poetry. But the idea that AI could become more intelligent than humans is definitely a bit unsettling.
It's a prospect that raises a lot of ethical and philosophical questions. And Hawking is careful to distinguish between narrow AI, which is what we have today, and artificial general intelligence, AGI, which is what people often fear.
So narrow AI is good at specific tasks, like playing chess or recognizing faces, but it's not truly intelligent in the same way that humans are.
That's right. AGI, on the other hand, would have human-level cognitive abilities across a wide range of tasks and potentially surpass human intelligence in many areas. And this is where Hawking sees the potential for danger.
He was worried that superintelligent AI could pose a threat to humanity.
That's right, he writes. I fear the consequences of creating something that can match or surpass humans. AI would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans, who are limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded. This idea of an intelligence explosion, where AI rapidly self-improves beyond our control, is a key concern for many people in the AI field.
So it's like we create our own successor species, but they're not biological, they're digital.
That's one way to look at it. And Hawking uses a rather chilling analogy to illustrate the potential for misaligned goals between humans and superintelligent AI.
Yeah, I remember that one. The anthill and the hydroelectric project. Can you remind us of that?
Sure. Imagine an ant colony living peacefully in a field. Then humans come along and decide to build a hydroelectric dam, which happens to be right on top of the ant colony. The humans don't have any malicious intent toward the ants. They're just focused on their own goals. But from the ants' perspective, it's a catastrophe.
They get wiped out, even though it wasn't intentional.
Exactly. And Hawking's point is that superintelligent AI could have goals that are completely indifferent to our well-being, even if they're not actively hostile towards us. It's crucial to ensure that AI is developed with ethical considerations in mind, that its goals are aligned with ours, and that we have mechanisms for controlling it.
It's a powerful message. We need to be very careful about how we develop and deploy this incredibly powerful technology. But he also acknowledges the potential benefits of AI. Right?
Absolutely. He mentions its potential to help us solve some of the world's biggest challenges, like climate change, disease, and poverty. His concern isn't with AI itself, but with the potential for unintended consequences if we're not careful.
So it's a powerful tool that needs to be used wisely. All right, finally, we come to the last chapter. How do we shape the future? This one feels like a combination of all the big questions he's explored throughout the book.
It does. It's like his final message of hope and caution for humanity. He starts by reminding us of the immense challenges we face, the existential threats we've already discussed.
He lists them all again. Climate change, overpopulation, resource depletion, the risk of pandemics.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that we are living in a critical moment in history. He states quite plainly, we face awesome environmental challenges: climate change, food production, overpopulation, the decimation of other species, epidemic disease, acidification of the oceans. Together, they are a reminder that we are at the most dangerous moment in the development of humanity.
So he's not sugarcoating it, but he also offers a path forward, a way to navigate these challenges.
Absolutely. He stresses the crucial importance of scientific education, arguing that we need a scientifically literate populace to make informed decisions about our collective future. He writes, only a small percentage of children grow up to be scientists, mathematicians, or engineers, but we need virtually everyone to have a basic understanding of science.
So science education is essential for everyone, not just aspiring scientists.
That's his point. He also calls on scientists to engage with the public and policymakers, to communicate their findings clearly, and to advocate for evidence-based solutions to the challenges we face.
It's a call for action for both scientists and citizens to work together to shape a better future.
That's exactly right. And then he ends the book with a deeply personal and inspiring message, reflecting on his own life and offering advice for future generations.
One of the most memorable quotes from the book, I think.
It is, he writes. So remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Try to make sense of what you see and wonder about what makes the universe exist. Be curious. And however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you don't just give up.
Wow. It's a beautiful and powerful message, a testament to his own resilience and his unwavering belief in the human spirit. This deep dive into brief answers to the big questions has been incredibly insightful.
It really has. Hawkins' unique blend of scientific rigor, philosophical depth, and genuine human warmth shines through in every chapter.
It's a reminder that even as we grapple with the biggest mysteries of the universe, we need to hold on to our sense of wonder, our curiosity, and our hope for the future.
And it underscores the importance of facing these big questions head-on, of engaging in thoughtful discussion, and of seeking evidence-based solutions to the challenges that lie ahead.
Well said. You know, thinking about Hawking's caution about the potential dangers of superintelligent AI, it really makes you wonder what ethical guidelines we need to put in place as this technology continues to develop.
That's an excellent question. What safeguards can we implement to ensure that AI serves humanity's best interests? How do we balance innovation with responsibility?
These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves now while we still have time to shape the future of AI.
Absolutely. The choices we make today will have profound consequences for generations to come.
Thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey through Stephen Hawking's final thoughts. It's been a privilege to explore these big questions alongside such a brilliant mind.
The pleasure was all mine.
And for all of you listening, keep those questions coming. The search for understanding never ends.